Okay, let's try the first trigonometry question here. It says if the cosine of 23 degrees equals p, express without using a calculator the following in terms of p. Well, this is actually Pythagorean trig you need for this last question, but before you get to there, you can answer all three of you can answer the first three questions just using the things we've learned in trigonometry, like cofunctions. You see, the sine of 67 is equal to the cosine of 90 minus 67. The sine of 67 is the cosine of 23 degrees, and we know that equals p. So there's the sine of 67 equaling p. What about the cosine of 337? Well, that's just a reduction problem. It's the same as the cosine of, that's in the fourth quadrant. The reference angle is 23 degrees. And in the fourth quadrant, cosine's positive. So the cosine of 23 is exactly the same as the cosine of 337 in the fourth quadrant. It equals p as well. Let's try this one. Negative 203 degrees. Well, you start at 0, then you go clockwise all the way around. You get 180, and then another 23 degrees. Well, it's just p again, except in the second quadrant. That's where minus 203 degrees. You'd rotate clockwise all the way around. You'd be up into the second quadrant. So it would be equal to p because it's just 23 degrees, but we know that cosine's negative there. Well, there's the first three questions all done, and we didn't have to do Pythagoras. But to get this one, the tan of 157, well, you'd get 1 mark if you just did the reduction and went, oh, that's the same as the tangent of 23 degrees, but it'd be negative. But we can't get at this thing. We can't figure it out if we don't do a little Pythagoras trick. You know the cosine of 23 degrees? It equals p, but you could write it as p over 1. And since cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, we could make a triangle. Adjacent over hypotenuse, put 23 degrees in there, and then this opposite side here, I don't know what it is, but we can use Pythagoras to figure it out. And what do? We go the square root of this squared minus this squared. 1 squared minus p squared by Pythagoras gives me the opposite side. Now, what's tangent again? It's opposite over adjacent. So it must be this over this. It's just that it's negative tangent at 23 degrees in the second quadrant. So your answer is negative root 1 minus p squared over p. So the last question is a little bit more complicated. You've got to use a Pythagorean trick here to be able to figure out what this opposite side is, this opposite part of the tangent. And there's the first questions done.